Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, came out in 1995, and it was directed by Brian Spicer. And if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, it's probably because he went on to direct pretty much nothing except for a couple episodes of TV shows here and there. The guy stayed busy, but not with big movies by any means. And this movie is probably the reason why. I was 6 years old when this movie came out, and it was a big deal. If you didn't see this movie, you pretty much weren't cool. If you didn't like Power Rangers, you pretty much weren't cool. I mean, all of my friends and I, we would always pretend that we were the Power Rangers. We'd always fight over being the Red Ranger before the White and Green Ranger came out. But then obviously we would fight over that. And when this movie came out, everyone was so excited. And it was the big summer blockbuster to go see for the kids. And even as a 6-year-old, the movie didn't live up to my expectations. Being a kids movie, the plot is pretty simple. This guy named Ivan Ooze was trapped in this egg thing about 2,000 years ago by another team of Power Rangers. And he is found in a construction site in Angel Grove. Surprise, surprise. And he's revived by Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa, who I still think should have been the main villains in this movie. They really missed an opportunity with them because Lord Zed looked awesome in this, and he sounded better than his show counterpart. And Rita was actually speaking English. They weren't dubbing over her because this wasn't Japanese footage translated to English, which they had an opportunity there, and they just we'll just make a new villain. We'll stick with the show concept of always having a new villain monster thing, and we'll name him Ivan Ooze because it's the 90s and everything has to be oozy. Ivan returns back to the fortress of Lord Zed and Rita and traps them in this tiny snow globe, which, when you think about it, Lord Zed is really only in about 3 or 4 scenes, and the majority of them he is in that snow globe. It's very disappointing. After trapping Lord Zed and Rita in that snow globe, Ivan Ooze goes to the Power Rangers Command Center, destroys that, nearly killing Zordon, and the Power Rangers lose their power because it's connected to the Command Center, or Zordon somehow. No idea. They have to travel to this distant planet called Phaedos and find this sacred power where they're going to be rejuvenated with the animal spirits of themselves, and they get new Zords. Everything just comes together. I remember being really excited for this movie. I think this is the first movie that I remember seeing previews of before it came out, and I could not wait to see it. And then I couldn't wait for it to come out on VHS so that we could bring it home and watch it over and over again like I did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because those tapes got destroyed, and this one eventually got destroyed. They were just, I loved them. Even as bad as this movie actually is, I still loved it and hated parts of it. And I'll get to the parts that I didn't like about it. But I was just so excited for this movie. The first part of this movie is all just stunts. And while it's cool and exciting, as a 6-year-old, it did not really connect with me. I mean, the skydiving scene was kind of cool, but it was just like, okay, we get it. And then they go rollerblading immediately after, and they're like, oh, okay, we gotta go to work. It's like, do these kids go to school? Are they all graduated? I mean, none of the actors were high school age. They were all like way older, especially Billy. I think he was already in his 30s at this point. Then they're told to come back to the command center by Alpha and Zordon, and I was all excited. I'm like, yes, we're going to see the command center in moviness. It looked horrible to me as a kid. I wanted it to be just a recreation of the TV show. I didn't want something new and futuristic. It looks, in my opinion, it looked worse than the TV show version. Zordon looked way worse somehow. His face just didn't work so well. And Alpha just looked weird too. He was too tall, I think it was. And somehow the entire time that they're talking to Zordon and Alpha and teleporting to the construction site, Lord Zed and Rita go to wake up Ivan Ooze. But they bring along with them Goldar and the pig guy. I don't remember his name because he was only in the movie as far as I remember. And it always bothered me because I'm like, who is this pig character? He's not the pig that ate all the food in one of those episodes. He was just a brand new character for the movie. They removed Babu, Squat, and Finster. And while I hated Babu and Squat, Finster was always an interesting character, and I thought they could have done something with Finster in making a new monster that answered to Lord Zed and Rita, because they would have been the better villains in my opinion. Instead, they wanted to make a new villain with a new actor that could bring something different to the table. And this is where we get our first fight scene. It's in the construction site at night when the Power Rangers come and they teleport and they're trying to investigate the Ivan Ooze egg. And they notice that they're too late. And they meet Ivan Ooze and they still don't morph. It's like, this is a bad guy. This is the bad guy that Zordon was telling you about, that the other Power Ranger team had to put in this egg for 2,000 years. And you're just going to talk to him. Say, no, we're the Power Rangers. Like, you better be scared. But I've always loved that part where Ivan Ooze goes, where's my autograph book? Because every other villain that they faced before then was always kind of like scared or just angry that the Power Rangers were there. And he's just like, okay, great. I don't care. I always liked that. And I still do like that part about it. And it works still. Ivan Ooze then makes his minions, which I'm going to call the Purple Putties because I don't remember what else they're called. And instead of morphing, they just go and fight them in their regular clothes. Because if you've watched the TV show, when they're about to be defeated, they always morph and then they're more powerful. It's like, why don't they just morph immediately and fight them off right then and there? And what's funny is all these Purple Putty guys are like cornering them. They're about to get them, and they morph, and it takes them like 2 minutes to morph, and they're doing all these like pterodactyl and saber-toothed tiger and all that stuff that they have to shout out to morph, and then they do their flipping thing in slow motion, and then they land, and the guys are gone. It's like, all right, you guys take your time at morphing. We're gonna go hide, and then you can meet us somewhere else because this is taking too long. I even thought that was funny when I was 6 years old watching it for the first time. I was like, well, yeah, you guys took too long to morph. Of course they're going to be gone. And another thing that bothered me, even as a 6-year-old seeing it for the first time, was the fact that every little move that they made a whooshing sound. Even their heads turning, was like, look over there. You know? Now after the morphing scene, they go through this corridor, and these shots are actually really cool. They're really cinematic. I've always loved these shots. And this is what I wanted the Power Rangers movie to look like and feel like when they're searching through there. And I remember being like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, you get to see the Power Rangers in all their glory, and it just looks so cool. Then we get the last part of that fight scene, which is even worse than the first part because there's even more backflipping, I think. It's just bad. And again, even as a 6-year-old, I was annoyed at all the backflips and all the wire work. Like, it doesn't even look good or realistic. You know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon has more realistic stunts than this movie. And they run up a bamboo stalk. But that's when the Power Rangers lose their power. They have to go back to the command center. And they're like really trying to be emotional about Zordon dying. And it never worked. That's when they're told they got to go to this distant planet Phaedos. And all who have tried for this power have failed. And they're like, well, we're the Power Rangers. We got to do this anyway. It's like, you guys are still teenagers, right? Where are your parents? You need to at least tell your parents that you're going to be gone. So they get to this planet, Phaedos, and Ivan Ooze sends these giant birds at them. And that has always bothered me too. It's like, okay, the Purple Putty guys were kind of silly, and now you bring in stupid bird creatures? I hated that part. and they end up fighting on this rocky beach, and lo and behold, there's somebody there at that planet, and it turns out to be a woman, and this is where I have to sidetrack a little bit. As a 6-year-old, there were too many good-looking women in this movie. That being two, Kimberly and I forgot her name, Delcia. As a 6-year-old, I thought they were gorgeous. Kimberly was like every 90s kid's first crush, okay? And then Delcia comes on, it's like, So within minutes, Ivan Ooze is able to create all this ooze, and he's selling it on the street already, and all these kids are going crazy because it's ooze, it's the 90s, you know, you got Nickelodeon, you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Secret of the Ooze, everything is ooze in the 90s. So all these kids want it, and it's supposed to mind control the parents when they touch it. So he's basically saying, like, you know, if your parents don't like it, throw it in their faces, so he can mind control the parents of Angel Grove, so that they can uncover his giant, what are they called, metamorphicons or something? I forget exactly what they're called. But they're the giant robots that he uses later on in the movie to destroy Angel Grove. And it's at this point in the movie where the Power Rangers get infused with their ninjetti, the ninja form of their ranger outfits, and they're given new animals, which eventually lead to new Zords, which I'll get to in a minute. But it's just, the ninja outfits I thought were really cool, but I wanted to see the Power Ranger costumes. I did not want to see the ninja outfits. Now granted, the 90s were like a big ninja era. I mean, we had Beverly Hills Ninja, we had 3 Ninjas, we had probably a bunch of other ninja movies other than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was a lot of ninja stuff going on in the 90s. So to make the Power Rangers ninja was just going with the flow of the 90s. Why not? So they're traveling through this forest, and they're lost, and they run into this boneyard of giant dinosaurs. And for some reason, I liked this scene growing up because it reminded me a little bit of Jurassic Park. And what I still like about this scene is, as far as I know, for the most part, those dinosaurs were animatronics. You know, they were bones, but they were still physically there. And this is when we start getting more frequency of Kimberly getting in trouble and always calling for Tommy. They finally reach the Great Power place, and they have to do another fight scene, of course, because a Power Rangers movie, you gotta have fight scenes every 5 to 10 minutes. They fight these rock creatures, and again, we get Kimberly calling for Tommy because she needs help. And I think we get Tommy saying, "Hang on, Kimberly," like 3 or 4 times in this movie. Maybe a few more than that, I'm not sure, but that's like the most common line. I swear. But after defeating those rock monsters, which I hate how they defeat them, like he throws them in water and it looks like acid because there's steam coming off the water, and then he kicks a rock monster. Remember, they say these guys are made of rock. Tommy kicks one of the rock monsters and he goes flying like 500 feet and shatters on the wall. And after that, of course, the great power reveals itself, and they're infused with their new animal spirit Zord things. And that's when they say, "New Zords!" I can just hear all the parents in the theater being like, "Ah, crap, I'm gonna have to buy new toys for my kid because they have new Zords." So they get back to Earth, and instead of going directly to Zordon to help him survive and repair the command center, they go directly to downtown Angel Grove. And that's where they see the giant robots destroying stuff. So then they call their Zords. And I remember being like really excited, like, oh my gosh, new Zords, this is gonna be awesome. And then you see them, and they're CGI garbage. Keep in mind, this came out 2 years after Jurassic Park. So we already had photorealistic CGI of creatures in a movie 2 years prior. So at this point, the Power Rangers decide to form the Megazord. The CGI, I hated the Megazord. You know, when I saw it as a 6-year-old, I was like, I don't even want this toy. You know, the first Megazord was awesome. The second Megazord, when they had the dragon and they had a bunch of other more mythical monsters, I think with the same cast still. I got that Megazord, I think, because that was awesome. You know, they had the white tiger. That was such a cool addition. And then they ruined it and just didn't work at all. And to be honest, the action before they combined into the Megazord was better than the Megazord versus Ivan Ooze, I thought. So it's at this point that the Power Rangers are like, hey, there's a comet coming by the Earth. Let's use that to destroy Ivan Ooze. Let's take him up to space. So Ivan Ooze follows them out to space. And they have this fight scene. It's not really a fight scene. It's more just they're just spinning in space. And at that point, they see the comet coming. And that's not how comets look. Comets are not balls of fire. They can't get free because Ivan Ooze's grip on them is too strong. So Aisha brings out the emergency button. And what does the emergency button do? It knees him in the crotch. That's all the emergency button does. So just like that, they destroyed Ivan Ooze. And they go back to the command center and they're all trying, really trying to get a tear to come out of their eye. And none of them can do it. And somehow they figure out, like, hey, the new power can save Zordon, so let's put our hands together, and these new coin things will come out and heal Zordon and fix the entire command center. So they do that, and it fixes it all, and he's like, Rangers! And that's all we get. And, of course, we get the greatest song. I still listen to this song because of this movie. Dreams by Van Halen. Oh man, such a great song. And I remember hearing that song in the movie and be like, oh, that's such a cool song and what a great addition to a cool movie. A cool movie to a 6-year-old at least. And now the sun has come out and I'm being blinded, so don't worry about that. After the fireworks scene and we get that cool song, we get this mid-credits scene, which is the first that I remember ever seeing. And it's Goldar sitting in Lord Zed's chair, and he's acting like Lord Zed. And then we finally see Lord Zed and Rita come out from somewhere else in there, and they're back to their normal size, and they look upset. They're just pissed. And I remember thinking, we're going to get a sequel, and it's going to be Zed and Rita as the big bad guys, and that's going to be awesome. I was so excited, and eventually we did get a sequel, but it wasn't a direct sequel. It was a Zeo Ranger mixed with Turbo, which was just awful. So overall, as a 6-year-old, I remember loving this movie. Even though it had its flaws, the CGI was awful, the acting was bad, the villains got switched up, which I thought was a mistake. I think they still should have used Goldar, who also looked worse than his show counterpart. And they missed some opportunities there. But the costumes, the Ranger suits looked incredible. And the fight scenes were fun, but they were way too stylized and way too dependent on wires and just kind of stupid looking. But, I mean, it's hard to grade this movie because it's so bad yet so good. So I'm going to give it 2 grades, and then I'm going to split the difference, and that's going to be the final grade. One of the grades is going to be how I feel about it now, and that is a D-. It's a bad movie when you boil it down. It's just a really bad movie. But my nostalgia grade, which is how I felt when it first came out, I have to give it a B+, because it was awesome. But even as a 6-year-old, like I kept saying, it wasn't good. It definitely did not live up to the hype, and it didn't live up to my expectations that were based on the TV show that I thought was incredible. Splitting the difference, my final grade for Power Rangers, the movie, is a C. And I still think that might be too easy on it, but that is combining my nostalgia grade with my current grade. My current grade was D-. Okay, it was very near a fail. So that's my review of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. Unfortunately, our review for the Power Rangers movie that comes out this weekend is going to be delayed by at least a couple days because I'm going to be out of town this weekend, unfortunately. So we're not going to be able to see the movie until Sunday or Monday at the earliest. So hopefully we'll be able to get that review out as soon as possible. Our Beauty and the Beast review has been delayed because we've been remodeling our kitchen because of water damage, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. Hopefully we'll get these reviews out for you guys because we want to see these movies, and we want to let you guys know what we thought about them. So be on the lookout for those reviews, and let us know in the comments section what you thought of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie that came out in 1995. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big ol' thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon next to that subscribe button so you can be notified of when we upload new content. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.